In retrospect, a few things are obvious. Russia has always had ongoing conflicts and upheavals. The battles in Chechnya came first, followed by the conflict with Georgia under Medvedev, while the economic collapses of 1998 and 2008-2009 served as the main impetus for future planning. These elements appear to be taken into consideration, and there was a tremendous drive to create a future for Russia free from both conflict and crisis. But after the conflict between Russia and Ukraine is over, what does Russia's future hold? What will the Russian economy look like and how will it operate? Make sure to stay tuned until the end to find out. Hey guys, welcome back to another exciting video. As you all know, today in this video, we'll be discussing the present conditions in Russia and the future of the Russian economy. But before we head to our topic, make sure to subscribe to our channel, Economy Expert, for more such economy content. That said, let's get started. The Nord Stream 2 pipeline linking Russia and Germany was frozen by the German government on February 22, 2022, just before the Russian invasion, which led to a sharp increase in natural gas prices. This resulted in significantly higher electricity bills, especially in Europe. Russian security forces launched a special military operation in Ukraine on February 24th in an effort to remove the country's democratically elected government and install a Russian puppet administration in its place. Prior to the invasion, Ukraine generated 11.5% of the world's wheat crop and 17% of the world's corn crop. As a result of the invasion, the prices of wheat and maize skyrocketed, in turn raising the cost of food and biodiesel. Meanwhile, the price of Brent crude oil per barrel increased from $97.93 on February 25th to a high of $127.98 on March 8th. This led to an increase in the cost of petrochemicals and other products that depend on crude oil. The impact of the sanctions on the Russian economy led to an increase in annual inflation of 17.89%, the highest level since 2002. In Russia, inflation has reached a YTD high of 10.83%, up from 2.72% in 2021. In the week ending April 8th, weekly inflation reached a new high of 0.99%. Experts believe Russia's GDP will fall by up to 15% this year, wiping off the last 15 years of economic achievements, the White House said on April 6, 2022. Supply networks in Russia have been significantly affected, and inflation has already reached a spike of over 15%, with forecasts for it to rise even further. It's highly likely that Russia will lose its position as a major economy and that it will keep making slow but steady progress toward economic, financial, and technical isolation. This prediction looks to be accurate. There are still a lot of unknowns, including whether Russia will be forced to make payments on its debt, whether foreign trade, especially in oil and gas, will be prohibited, whether it will still be able to rely on India and other developing nations for financial assistance and to help it circumvent sanctions, and how large Russia's actual foreign exchange reserves are and whether they include items like oligarch assets or other undiscovered treasures from its mafia state. Additionally, Western officials have become more determined to punish Russia, particularly through devastating economic sanctions in the wake of the disclosure of war crimes at Bucha. However, Europe has largely refrained from imposing the harshest penalty, banning gas imports from Russia. Oil and gas exports from Russia account for 50% of its total export revenue, with Europe being its main market. The decision to shut off Russia's energy supply is one that Europe is getting closer to making every day with each atrocity. This decision would have long-term strategic repercussions and be detrimental to Russia's economy, at least until it could find other clients and transit routes. Once the European Union makes this choice, it's difficult to understand why it would reverse course. A consensus is developing in Europe for taking the one action that, more than any other, will impair Putin's ability to pay for this war in the near term, despite the recent re-election of Hungarian strongman Viktor Orban, who claims that he will block an energy boycott. Several nations, especially Germany, have already outlawed Russian oil and are working to separate themselves from Russian gas. Russia has stopped supplying gas to Bulgaria and Poland. According to the sanctions reasoning, the more economically precarious Russia becomes, the more likely it is that Putin's deluded leadership will be met with internal political opposition. Extreme, acrimony in politics as well as on the battlefield marked the first month of the war. Leaders of the Russian military and administration appeared confused. Sergei Shoigu, the defense minister, vanished for a few weeks. Putin dismissed the leaders of the Federal Security Service's Foreign Intelligence Division as numerous generals lost their lives in combat and Ukrainian farmers dragged away Russian tanks that had become inoperable. Some sources claimed that while Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stayed in command in Kiev, Russian authorities had retreated to a hidden nuclear bunker in the Ural Mountains. Some Russian oligarchs expressed their shock at the invasion and its outcome, feeling that Putin had single-handedly destroyed 20 years of Russian prosperity. Amid a crackdown on dissent and free expression, a palace coup or public uprising are still implausible, but neither is unthinkable, and Russia's politics will remain unstable as living standards decline. In order to prepare for a new operation in eastern Ukraine, Putin reoriented the army toward a concentration of soldiers there. This can be viewed as a defeat in some ways due to the rapid reduction in military goals from a total takeover of the nation to an effort to extend Russia's occupation of eastern Ukraine. However, as stated by security analyst Sergei Karaganov, Russia must win this battle regardless of how it is defined, and using a more specific definition might be effective. A lot depends on what happens locally. It will be one thing if Putin can hold on to newly gained territory in eastern Ukraine and declare victory. However, if the Ukrainian army is successful in pushing Russia back, Putin will not be able to do so and will be more publicly exposed. Putin is likely to prolong the conflict as much as possible. Although it's already been tremendously expensive in terms of lives lost, property ruined and towns destroyed, this conflict has already been a huge political victory for Ukraine. Through it, Ukraine has succeeded in gaining acceptance as a nation on a global scale. The majority of nations are created via conflict, and Ukraine has used this awful onslaught to its long-term advantage by establishing itself as a strong state. It has been shown to be a democratic nation in Europe with a strong civic nationalism that spans the gap between Ukrainian and Russian speakers and embraces a wide range of ethnic identities, including Polish, Jewish, Armenian, and Greek. Ukraine has made a lasting impression on the international stage because of its charismatic and well-liked president. Most importantly, Ukraine demonstrated that it is a part of Europe and of European values, and is therefore a prospective future member of the bloc despite decades of mistrust from core EU states. That will lead to a long-term transformation in Ukrainian politics. According to some economists, Russia can afford to run a small fiscal deficit because of its considerable reserves of low level of public debt. In 2015, the fiscal deficit was 2.8% at year's end. Because it's not started a war and should rely on contracts with troops, the Russian government struggled to locate enough personnel to carry out military operations in Ukraine. One incentive to serve appears to be facilitating rampant theft, which at least one Russian soldier claimed was authorized by Russian leader Vladimir Putin in a phone call that was overheard. In medieval times, paying warriors with plunder was a popular practice. Numerous accounts of looting by Russian forces since the start of the conflict demonstrate that looting has been tolerated as a covert economic tactic to damage Ukrainians and encourage Russians to enlist. Additionally, as of right now, the following summarizes the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine has denounced President Vladimir Putin's executive order, calling it an encroachment on Kiev's sovereignty and national integrity. The decision made it easier for all Ukrainians to become citizens of Russia. Apparently the work of Ukrainian saboteurs, a car bomb in the Kharkiv region of eastern Ukraine killed the Russian-appointed administrator of a tiny village there. Ole Sinehubov, the regional governor, reported that 3 people were murdered and numerous more were injured on Monday as a result of Russian shelling in the city of Kharkiv in northeastern Ukraine. In reaction to what the officials in the exclave have termed the blockade of its territory in Lithuania, the governor of Russia's Kaliningrad region has recommended a prohibition on the transit of commodities between the 3 ballistic republics and Russia. According to the local occupation authorities, a car bomb believed to have been planted by Ukrainian saboteurs killed the Russian-appointed administrator of a small town in the Russian-occupied east of Ukraine's Kharkiv region. Returning to our subject, it's predicted that the Russian government will succeed in certain areas with its current strategy in the near future, but this only serves to highlight the extent to which the invasion of Ukraine has skewed Russia's economy and its future. Russia's long-term economic prosperity won't likely be achieved by hunger, looting, and theft. What are your thoughts on Russia and your predictions on the Russian economy? Let us know in the comment section. And that's all for today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Economy Expert, for more such amazing content.